I'm Sydney Kaufman. I'm here with my dad, Devin Kaufman. We're from Kaufman Construction and KC Handyman. Today we're going to talk to you about a roadmap for your remodel. So Dad, one thing you always say is design happens. What do you mean by that?
I mean that it happens whether you kind of realize it or not. People sometimes think that they don't need design or it's a option. Um, you have to decide how pieces are going to be installed and then what the aesthetic or the functional effect will be. And so uh, design is as much about communication as it is about the aesthetic value or the aesthetic appeal of it. So though we love that, that's a huge part of design and the fun aspect of it. The real heart or meat behind a design process is to make sure everybody understands what the end product is going to be.
Great. So how do you use the roadmap to control expectations for cost and final product?
Well, the drawings are set as one point, but also controlling the budget, and so a process that leads you from an idea to a final product is an important part of this. And the design build process, in particular, we've all heard and seen where a designer designs something that then when they go to get bid out, it's way more expensive than what you think. So a step-by-step process to help align those two pieces and know before you start what steps come next is a huge part or what the roadmap is.
So you're going to show us how some of these decisions can impact a tile shower.
We have pictures here or drawings, renderings of a shower showing all the different ways that shower could look with essentially the same materials but handling the details in different ways. And so a shower here with no tile, just the tile backer. And then you see here a shower that is very contemporary looking and intentionally very streamlined with tile that is what we call stack bond. All the joints line up and has no bullnose tile, just has metal termination points where the tile ends and the corners that the tile intersects on the outside corners. It actually has a linear drain in it too. The second slide is still pretty contemporary looking, but a little more of a classic or traditional look to it. And use a mosaic tile on the floor, and the larger field tiles are installed in what we call a running bond, where they're offset, kind of like brick. And using bullnose tile to terminate at the end of the shower on the wall on the right, and then bullnose tile kind of as casing on the outside of the opening on the left, and all using bullnose tile on the curb also. The third example shows a lot of the same things you see there, but we are incorporating some shelving for like storage. Might be a little bit hard to see there, but back in the back corners, you got some little shelves there for shampoo or soap, and the bullnose on both sides is flat, not turning a corner. And one of the most significant differences here is the curb has a large piece of probably what would be either quartz or marble or something like that. So looks really nice, cleans up the look, but also no joints that we do see sometimes where the grout has leaked and there might be tile coming loose on a curb when it's done the way we showed in one of the previous renderings. In this example, we're getting a bit more creative and a bit more of a statement with the tile. The statement is to add color and different textures. The previous ones with very clean look makes a statement too, very contemporary and very intentionally clean look to it. This one incorporates accent tile running through the middle of the shower, and you can see how having that lined up to where it's going to hit the center of the valve on the shower valve on the left is a very important detail for this design. And along the way here, we're showing differences in shower doors too. This one is a swinging door. I think we have just a solid panel on one of the previous slides, and no door drawn on one of the other ones too. Still has a curb, solid curb, or cap to the curb also. This next example incorporates a niche on the back wall, and this is where you can see that it's got a bullnose tile that is on the outside, if you will, of the niche, and it creates a frame around the niche, which is a really nice look. But you do see how it's detailed out so that is uh, lays into the overall layout of the tile, so it's integrated. Sometimes you might want that to essentially be just stuck in the middle of the tile, so it creates its own statement, it has its own frame. This is kind of a picture frame around it, but it lines up with the grout joints of the larger format tile. And again, there's not a right or wrong about the aesthetics of the design. So it's not always about dictating what should happen. It's oftentimes about giving you choices as the homeowner of what you want it to look like. And we can provide these drawings or a process and drawings to help illustrate that so you can understand what the options are is an important part of the roadmap that we're talking about. And then this one is same niche basically. It does end up being a little bit bigger, but it's a little more what I would call contemporary look. All we did is move the bullnose tile inside of the niche rather than it framing the outside. And so everything still lines up with the grout lines of the field tile. That dictates the size of the niche, but it has a completely different look than the one before. And then here we just have some examples of the drawings that maybe not absolutely necessary, but certainly make the process of making one of those plans or designs that we've shown come to life. A detailed floor plan that you see here that helps people understand the size of the shower itself and making sure that we all understand that. And then, specific drawings that show the back wall with the niche and some notes of the specific things that make up that design or the specific elements. Then these detail drawings that we're showing here, I oftentimes say to clients, they may not be important to you, and oftentimes they're not. More times than not, we present you with the drawings that you looked at before, and you love that. In order for us to make sure that the end product is what you expect or what we all agreed upon, these details are what our people need to make that design come to life. But there are parts of them that we do have clients that can get very much into these details, and there also might be little things that we need to point out there, the impact of certain things, like how deep the niche might be, or how tall, things like that that aren't maybe so it would be easy to overlook if you're just looking at the perspective drawings or rendering. So as you can see, little things can greatly impact the overall design of a project or a feature in a project. And if there's not a process and there's not a roadmap to how those details are handled, you could end up with something very different than what you were expecting.
I can definitely see how we could get off track if those decisions aren't agreed upon between the whole team. But that's the fun part. How do we get to that point?
Well, yeah, there's quite a bit of effort that goes into getting to that point. That is essentially a finished set of drawings, and you definitely don't want to go to that work without a firm understanding of what the cost might be in the end. So you want a roadmap in how the plan will evolve, and then how the price will be associated with that or attached to that. And so there are different ways to do that, but we start with an initial estimate or an initial budget. And the larger the project, the more decisions that have to be made. So that can dictate whether it's an estimate or a budget. And then a process or steps along the way to be able to say, okay, we know this much now about the end plan, and therefore it might cost this much, and just kind of keep narrowing it down, the plan and the cost to, and steps along the way that everybody agrees upon or understands where, okay, once we get to this point in the design, we will update the cost so that we can make sure that we end up with a plan that meets a budget that you are that people are ready to build with, because you certainly would hate to get that excited about a design and then discover that we can't do it because it costs too much. So step-by-step process to lead you from an idea or a concept to a final plan and a final cost that we can actually build.
So I think we've laid out the roadmap to a successful remodel. We've talked about design, budget, drawings, all those things. But if you have any more questions, you can come visit us at booth 3 and 4 or check out our website, www.kaufmanconstruction.com.